everyone, welcome to ONYX Pages. I'm in Jerry. It is Sunday, November something, 19th. I am very cozy. I am sitting on the floor. My lighting is different. Still learning. So this is going to be hopefully a very quick video. I'm going to be reviewing two books that I have recently finished. So one is, let's do these books in ascending order. The first is Concrete Park, and the second is Akata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor. And I know there is like a lot of glare happening here, so it's going to be a thing. So let's start with Concrete Park. So Concrete Park is obviously a graphic novel, and it was written by, created by Tony Puryear, Erica Alexander, and Robert Alexander. Written by Tony Puryear and Erica Alexander, and the artwork, colors, and letters are by Tony Puryear. This is volume number 1, You Send Me. And if you recall from some of my other videos, I really wasn't looking forward to this because, I mean, look at the cover. Like, it's phallocentric, it's very much about the male gaze. A lot of the pictures throughout the graphic novel are very much focused on a particular kind of female body, and it's very much the kind of book or the kind of comic book that I would stay away from. But I ordered it from Amazon because somebody described it as Afrofuturism, and that's pretty much all you need to say to get me to buy a book, apparently. And I finished it today. So let's just go through the 7 cowrie shell rating of it. I'll tell you that the story follows a young black man who is basically he's exiled off of Earth he's on his way going to a planet, I believe, that acts as a jail because he has shot someone who killed his little sister. So there's a lot of violence in this world. It seems very post-apocalyptic. A lot of gang violence. It's very like gang violence sort of kind of aesthetic. So there's a lot of mostly, I think all the characters that I've seen are people of color, mostly black, and Latinx characters. So he ends up going onto this spaceship to go to this off-world jail. Something happens, he doesn't actually get there, but this first volume acts as a bit of a pilot series where you meet a number of different characters. So what we learn about this world is that it's not a world that is inhabited only by humans. This even though it's sort of set in this kind of like gangbanger society kind of setup, we also see that there are shapeshifters, and there are alien characters, and there are women-run gangs that seem to have magical powers and so on. So that's kind of interesting. But not much happens in this volume. People die, some shapes are shifted. Like, I didn't like it. Okay, so let's just go through the 7 cowrie shells. So the first one is for plot. For plot, I would give this half a cowrie shell, because I mean something. No, it's not getting any cowrie shells for plot, because nothing really happens. So no cowrie shells for plot. For characters, a full cowrie shell for characters, because in this volume, and it's called You Send Me, by the way, we get to meet a number of different people. So we meet this woman on the cover, and she's a member of an all-woman gang. She's a survivor of a lot of violence. She has experienced this off-world I believe that she's gone to this off-world jail, but she runs with a lot of women who are just really strong, and who have been able to survive in this world that seems to be predominantly male. And we also meet a number of other characters that survive in this world and that are involved in whether it's gangs or other kinds of networks. So that's really cool. It operates very much like a pilot episode where you are taken through a number of different characters and you get to learn a little bit about what motivates them, a little bit about their stories, a little bit about what special skills they have, and what are the relationships that they have with other characters. So I would give a full carry for characters. For world building, I would give half a carry shelf. For world building, we're definitely introduced to two different settings. So one is this post-apocalyptic Earth, and another is this world of effectively criminals who are brought to, I guess, this other planet on a spaceship because they've done bad things. And it appears that before they get to this planet, they are engineered in some kind of way. They get a barcode under their eye, and they go to this other planet to serve their sentences. It's unclear as to whether they come back after they serve their sentences. So we also see some artificial intelligence, and so we know that there's something else going on just besides going from one world to another because you got arrested for a violent crime. Queerness. So interestingly enough, this character is in a relationship with another woman. However, the way that we learn about this relationship, it kind of, again, it feels very heterosexual, very male gaze. We don't really learn about the relationship between this woman and her partner, girlfriend, lover, wife. We don't even know. But it appears that, there are other relationships besides heterosexual relationships, but even the way that this relationship is set out, it's not very substantial. So I guess half a calorie shell for having some queer content. I feel like I'm trying very hard to be generous here. And is this Afrofuturist? I mean, we definitely have communities of color, including African communities, trying to contend with and to use technology in order to survive this world, this place. So it certainly does, I think, ask the question, all of these communities that have been sort of forgotten or under-resourced by governments right now, what will happen when we've got this influx of technology? How will the class divides affect these particular communities when we've got this influx of technology, of potential alien interaction? I mean, it asks those kinds of questions, and I'm sure that there is some sort of highbrow critique in there, but I don't have it. The next cowrie shell is this aspirational? No, I didn't find this story aspirational at all. I found it predictable. I found it uninteresting. I really had to sort of search for something that I liked that would kind of catch me. I think one of the things that I really appreciated about it was the art. So I flipped the pages because I was looking for some illustration that would be really compelling, but I found myself turned off by it. And I think, challenging norms. Did this challenge norms? No, it didn't. So 0. I don't really have much to say about Concrete Park. I have a few stickies here of pages that I identified as being interesting. There are only 5. I do think that the art, I like the style of the art. Yeah. So, that's all I have. I'm not going to continue reading this. If you saw, it reminds me also of the movie Sin City. If you like that aesthetic, you might like this. Anyway, I'm done. Moving on. So this is Akata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor. I finished this book in one sitting. It was awesome. And I have a lot to say about this. So this story follows a young teenager named Sunny. She's albino, and we find out that she's got magical qualities, and we sort of follow her through this realization process that she's got this magical skill, and she learns about the dimensions and the potential of her magical skill through a series of encounters that she has with some of her peers who are around the same age, and also elders who she meets throughout. And she's learning about her magical skills within the context of a threat that is being made against her community by a mysterious criminal who appears to be using magical skills in order to take children away from this village. So we learn here about a system of magic that interacts with this community in Nigeria. We learn about a new kind of currency, another world that sort of exists right on top of this world, and I really enjoyed it. It's I would consider this to be a YA fantasy novel, and it's just really charming. As a character, Sunny is lovable. She's confident. She's smart. She's resourceful. She's got a temper. She's inquisitive. She's courageous. Her friends are kind. They are generous with their knowledge. Her family is appropriately complex and complicated. The people that she meets along the way see her potential, and they invest in her, and they know that she's destined for amazing things. And the system of magic that we encounter here is one that centers difference. And in order to, and the people in this book who are magical, there are things about them that in the non-magical world would be identified as deficiencies. And so there's an interesting conversation in this book about ableism and potential, and what happens when we limit the potential of young people by labeling them as having deficiencies in their abilities to navigate the intellectual world, the creative world, and the social world. So without getting too much into spoilers, I hope that gives you a bit of a sense of Akata Witch. This is the first in the Akata series. There's a prequel, a sequel to this called Akata Warrior, which I'm really looking forward to reading. Okay, so let's get into the 7 cowrie shell rating for this one. For plot, I would give this a full cowrie shell for the reasons that I've already described. For characters, another full cowrie shell. The characters are rich, they're textured, they're interconnected and interrelated in amazing ways. I particularly liked learning about Sunny's family and their relationships with this magical community. So definitely full cowrie shell for characters. For LGBT queer content, I don't think that we encounter any kind of like queerness or any breach on the so-called norm of heterosexuality. So I would say 0 or nothing, certainly nothing memorable. So 0 cowrie shells for that. Was this Afrofuturistic? I would definitely say that this fantasy novel falls within the category of Afrofuturism. And the reason why I would say that is because we've got it's more definitely fantasy. There is magical elements to it. maybe I'm struggling with this notion of Afrofuturism because I'm reading a lot about what Afrofuturism is and isn't, and a lot of critiques of it. So I would say at this point I would still maintain that this is an Afrofuturist novel, simply because we've got a young girl who's discovering that that she's magical, and she's learning about her magic. Sort of as a technology, and in some ways her magic is treated as such, in my view. And so I would say that this is an Afrofuturist. There is an element of Afrofuturism here. And I would say the world building, I would also give a full cowrie shell for world building. I think that it takes a lot of skill to create parallel worlds that coexist, and I think Okorafor does an amazing job of doing that. She literally, as Sunny starts to learn that the town that she grew up in and the people that she knew are also part of this sort of secret magical society, she starts seeing the ways that magical society has rolled into her everyday life, into her school, into her village, into the nearby gas station, into the forest, and it seems really seamless and believable. So the world building is really good, really incredible. This is definitely aspirational because we're following a young girl who, is starting to realize how incredibly special she is and wants to learn more about that. And what I love about Sunny is that as she finds out how magical she is and how amazing she is, she wants more. Like, she practices her skills. She realizes what she's good at. She gets good at it. She continues. Like, she's really, really brilliant, and she's really spontaneous and courageous. And I think that if I was encountering all this new information at once, it would be really difficult for me to integrate it into my day-to-day life. And she's 100% fine with that. So that's really amazing. And does it challenge norms? I do think that it does. I think that I wasn't really expecting there to be a critique on ableism in the way that there is in this novel. So there's one moment where there's an elder who talks about the fact that sometimes we dim the light of young people by telling them that they're less than, that they can't succeed because of some kind of intellectual failing they might have, or a physical failing. And that was a really wonderful moment for me that I think was a teachable moment. So I'll add up all the calories at the end and see, but I would think we're probably at maybe 5.5 calories. So that's my review of Akata Witch. It was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed it. As you can see, I flagged a number of different pages, and I'm not going to go into them right now, but I do want to address something that irritates me about the way that we've been talking about Akata Witch, or some of us have been talking about Akata Witch. And that is the relationship between Akata Witch and Harry Potter, and the comparisons that have been drawn between these two books. Now, I have found them annoying, so I haven't really read them. So this is an uninformed opinion. But I believe what we're hearing is that people are saying if you liked Harry Potter, you're gonna love Akata Witch. And Akata Witch is like the continental African Harry Potter. And I have to say that if Harry Potter is the only story that you've read about a young person who discovered that they're powerful and who goes on a quest, then I can understand why you would compare the two. But I'm not that person. I've read a number of different stories about young people who find out that they're powerful and have to figure out what to do with that power, and who realize that the world that they knew as normal was actually way more than that, and they had to figure out how to deal with different dimensions of this world. And they had to realize that a number of the people around them were also similarly aware that there is this magical world. So if you sort of take out that common denominator between the stories, you then just have to look at these worlds. And no shade to J.K. Rowling's, but the world that Okorafor builds in Akata Witch is superior. It's more complex than the wizarding world of Harry Potter. The diversity that exists in the Akata Witch world is more genuine. So one of the things that I enjoyed about Harry Potter is that you were introduced to a number of different wizarding worlds and different schools and different cultures, but it kind of felt like you didn't really get a lot of information about those cultures. So you might have an Asian student who is a love interest of Harry Potter, but we don't find out anything about the mystical worlds of Asia, for example. They're just students with different colored skin who happen to all be at this school with sort of no background, no context, nothing like that. In Akata Witch, we encounter an African-American young man, and we learn a little bit about his experience as African American. We learn about his experience as a young black man living in New York and dealing with police violence, and also being magical, and also making a commentary on African traditional systems as they exist in New York versus in I think in Cuba, I want to say, or the Caribbean or something. Like there's more sophistication there. And then Sunny herself, she was born in Nigeria, then lived in the US, I forget which state, and then she comes back to her home in Nigeria. And so we have to deal with the question of identity there. And then we've got her two other friends who were born and raised in the town that they lived in. And I feel like just right then and there, you get racial complexity, you get complexity in terms of class, complexity in terms of disability. There's just so much richness from an intersectional perspective in this book that you just literally can't compare these two worlds. So if you're going to read Akata Witch, I would ask you to not compare it to anything that you've read before, and try to appreciate the standpoint from which Nnedi Okorafor appears to be writing this book, and take it on its own merit. Judge Akata Witch for what it is, whatever you think its wonderful traits are, whatever you think its failings are. Appreciate them without using this Eurocentric magical world created by J.K. Rowling as the baseline. Okay, so thank you very much for watching ONYX Pages. I hope that you enjoyed this review of Concrete Park and Akata Witch, and I look forward to seeing you on other videos. Bye!